We're talking with Dave Horbenko of Insperity Incorporated today. Dave is an often referred and trusted friend of Goldberg Heinze. Dave, glad you're here, first of all.
Thank you for
How
having me.
how are you seeing the business effects of the virus and the non-virus? What's happening in the business as of today? How have things changed, and what are you seeing as far as suggestions are concerned?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me again, Paul. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. There's a lot going on since March of last year, and I think one of the main things is that small to medium sized businesses are struggling with is the administration and compliance with added layers of making sure that they have the proper record keeping, and they're making sure they have the things in place to for the PPP loans, right? And then now they're also getting into, what's our environment going to look like over the next 6 to 18 months? How do we approach a return to work? Do we have to require, or can we require our employees get vaccinated? So now we've got a whole layer of administration and compliance coming down from the federal and the state level and even local level, that I think is really piling up on the small to medium sized business community.
You focus in small and medium-sized businesses, and your mission is to provide human resources and administrative services. It just crossed my mind that actually, with additional reporting and compliance and regulation and mother government adding
Yeah.
things, it seems to me that your role is pretty much a safety valve and relief valve to the owner. Is that how you're seeing it, or am I mistaken?
That's exactly right, Paul. We're effectively helping. I advise on companies to be able to run better, grow faster, and make more money. I'll give you an example of what we would provide. So when the Paycheck Protection Program first came out, this was maybe summer of last year. There's a very specific items within the payroll reports that the government was looking for and the banks needed. We were able to create that specific report in a period of about a week, which was unbelievable work by our service team. And I'm so proud of what they had to go through last year, and are still going through now, where we created a specific report. They clicked a button, pulled it right down, and they were able to provide it to their banker along with their application to get the PPP in time, which helped bridge the gap on some cash flow.
Did most owners comply with the regulations and understand the regulations of the government and use the loan, which some of which is forgiven, for payroll purposes or other purposes that you had to reel them in and redirect the application of the money from the government?
So that's a great question. So a lot of companies were maybe aware that I mean, most everybody was aware that there was limitations on where you can spend that money. I think the issue is more of how do we track that, and are we really set up to track that, right? Because like as a small business owner, like you're really, you've got like, let's put it this way, you got five areas of um, keys that are like keys to your success, right? You got your sales, you got your finance, operations, technology, and then human capital. And oftentimes what happens is the human capital part um, gets neglected, and it's not like a terrible thing, right? It's just like that's the entrepreneurial mindset, is to focus on sales and finance, right? Like we want to make money, and so you're not really thinking about the administration and compliance of running a business until you get hit with a fine or collection. But then this has been a very unique year where you couldn't afford to play defense because now you were really going to get buried. So I think what happened was Insperity really did have to kind of make sure and pull them out of out of the trenches, I guess, if you will, and say, hey, look, like we need to make sure that now that you've got your loan, that this is being tracked and put in the right places so that some of it is forgiven.
And the focus and attention of a business owner or owners, most of their attention is usually pointed toward profitability, growth, diversification. With added controls and added regulations, we understand that you come in and relieve that load. Let's talk about an example for just a second. You deal with a lot of businesses. What are some of the top characteristics of a client or past client, without mentioning any names, that really are attentive to human resource capital and
Mhm.
administrative house cleaning and efficiencies? What are some of the examples of really good clients and how they have benefited profitably as well as in diversity by having their administrative and HR house in order?
Sure, that's a great question. I'll give you an example of there's a company in the financial services industry that's really starting to grow, and they're in a unique position where they were hiring remote work prior to the virus. And so what happens is they'll hire, they're looking for the top talent pool within the roles that are available all over the country. So what happens is there's a lot of payroll and HR rules and regulations that are state specific, which is which was extremely frustrating for his office manager when he was kind of just starting out. And what he's learned was we've got to have the right technology and procedures in place so when we hire somebody, let's say in New York, that those laws are significantly different than in the state of California. And then to go even further, you can actually utilize some of the services that we offer so you can forecast, hey, what would it cost for me to hire somebody in Denver versus New York or
Ah,
California or
okay.
Florida, and understand what your total overhead is. If I pay somebody $1, well, what ends up happening is I'm paying $1.30 because that 30 cents is my overhead on benefits on the workers' comp. I have to get covered for them. Do they want dental, vision? Do they want life, long-term, short-term disability? And then on top of that, the employer taxes, right? And then the employer taxes could be different, in different states. So what a lot of these, what this company was really able to do with us is just streamline all that process. So that's not even they're shifting the liability and lowering that liability administration. So now they can focus on making money for the company. That's the most important thing to get
Getting
these.
back to profit, right?
Exactly. Get back to profit, increase, it positively impact that bottom line. That's what they want.
When you are contacted by a prospective client, is that a referral or is that directly based on your marketing? How do people learn about what you do and where the most frequent places in their business you would probably be positioned? How do they find that out?
Sure. That's a good question. I think 70% of it is still going to be, really just mostly referrals, but through, a lot of our partners that we work with, and specifically I might work with, and then 30% is sort of you know, knocking on doors and making phone calls and things like that. But a lot of what Insperity does is we are a very focused in solution that is a premier product. So we do things a little bit differently in the sense that this is white glove service. We're certainly not the cheapest out there, and because of course there's other companies that might do what we do, but primarily I'm working within groups and companies that are looking to scale and looking to grow and looking to invest in their people. So that an example might be a technology company that's looking to go from 10 employees to 50 employees within the next year or so. we work with a lot of private equity firms, venture capital firms, and management consulting firms because those individuals understand the importance of being buttoned up from an administration and compliance point. But then they also understand, okay, how do we maximize talent, right? And then that might get into different conversations, such as making sure that we have a culture by design and not a culture by default. So
When
it's
does
really
an
good.
owner, when does an owner know or get the sense that they should be calling you?
I would say they are looking to scale or already growing so rapidly that their overhead expenses are going way up, and it's time to evaluate and figure out a way to be able to allow things to, like, processes to run better. And then, while at the like, I'll put it this way. So as you look to scale, your overhead continues to go up, right? So what we're doing is we're bringing that overhead down and then lowering their risk, and then we're maximizing their talent so that their top line revenue continues to soar, and that bottom line revenue, like we want to open that gap up, right, and close that gap to success and get them to the next stage in their business life cycle.
So the pre-tax profit level is soft and cushy and very desirable.
Correct.
How do you believe is the best way for some of our listeners to get in touch with you? What would you suggest?
Email is best. My email is david.horbenko, HORB as in boy, ENKO, at insperity.com. Or they can go to my LinkedIn page and send me a private message on David Horbenko.
Terrific. Personally, I recommend Insperity and Dave Horbenko. You will know the difference after they're completed with their work, and you'll be glad they did. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, Dave. And listeners, we really look to your comments as far as suggestions for topics that may really help you to run your business more profitably, prepare it for sale, prepare it for expansion and acquisition. We'd like to hear from you. Thanks much for spending this time with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.